Welcome to the Doc and Pro Show. I'm Dr. Mark Kovacs, and this is my good mate, Jason Bone. And we're here for the second part of the discussion with the great coach, Jose Higueras. Jose, thanks again for being here. The first part was phenomenal. We're going to lighten it up a little bit now, a little less tennis-focused questions, maybe some other things that get into different areas to try to get an understanding of you as well. And one of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about is some of the things you may do with players off the court, going to dinner, having those discussions. You've been with players for 20, 30, sometimes 40 weeks of the year.
Right.
How do you sort of keep that environment light and make it work? Because there's a lot of coaches out there and parents as well that are spending so much time with the player and you have to separate the on-court time and the off-court time.
Yes, well, if my coaching career has been a little different because I was never, not that I was so smart that I figured that out. It just happened organically. But I never really worked with somebody on the road full time or work with somebody more than 3 weeks in a row, because after 3 weeks, I don't know what to tell them anymore. So the way I've always worked was I worked with another coach. We worked together. And then I'll go some weeks on the road, especially normally went to the slams and some other tournaments. And then my most important time with them, from my perspective, was the practice weeks, because I think that's where you learn how to do things. When you go to tournaments, you do what you know how to do, but you don't learn much. And then the tournaments, if you go somebody to tournaments, big tournaments especially, it's more about keeping their minds on the right place, and you just make sure they're ready to play when the time comes. But normally that's the way I've always worked. But in general, I think the players and life has changed quite a bit. I mean, players now travel with an entourage, sometimes 10 people, 5 people, 6 people. So it's a little different. But at least when I was coaching, full time, I like for the player to be a little independent also. He doesn't have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with me unless he has to, and he thinks that's going to make him play better, and actually makes him play better. So that flexibility, it always exists when I'm with somebody. And then, especially during the time off, when we're practicing, I like to have them over the house. I like horses, and I like the country things. I like trees and dogs and all that kind of stuff. So most of the guys that I work with have been on a horse. If you ask Jim, actually Roger was on a horse, and even if it's for a picture. But so anyway, I try to show them a little different me, not only on the tennis court, telling them what to do, or always on a somewhat of a pressure situation. And in a way, you start to get to know them a little better, and so going through whatever adversity we go, have a better chance to try to help them.
Well, I'm gonna give. I would think that Roger probably in some of his most pressure situations probably went back to that time that he was sitting on that horse and kind of scared to death about he was going to fall off the horse, and maybe that calmed him down a little bit. Like the worst thing is I'm not going to fall off this horse. If I don't get the serve in, I'm going to be okay. So I mean, I'm sure that may have relaxed him in a way that you didn't even know. So,
well, I don't think he needed to get on a horse to feel that way. He's a pretty cool guy, I'll tell you what.
So talking about horses, I don't think a lot of people know how much you love horses, you ride horses, you own horses. Can you give us a little background? How did that all come about? Is that something that was in your family, or how did you pick up the love for horses?
Well, I was born on a ranch in the south of Spain. So my first 6 years, for a little bit that I remember, I was around horses and mules and dogs and chickens and the whole thing. So that kind of stayed with me. Then once I started playing tennis, that thought never left my mind. But just because of what I was doing, I couldn't take a chance of getting on a horse and getting hurt. So as soon as I stopped playing when I was 33. Then I got myself a horse, and actually I was lucky enough that when I married Donna, my wife, her dad was an old cowboy. So I kind of fall right into the right place. So from that time on, he introduced me to more people, to more horses. Just things that I really have it inside me. And then from there, I've been just a wannabe cowboy, because I'm definitely not a cowboy, but I always liked that way of life, and once I like the country and that style.
You're the closest thing to a cowboy that I know. So yeah, it's definitely true. So what do you think of Yellowstone, the TV show? It's, I think, the most popular show on TV right now.
Yes.
Is that reality? Is it, the stuff they do with the horses more so? The other storylines, is something different, but the horse footage there is unbelievable.
Yes, the last few episodes, I think, have been absolutely great, and that's I mean, those are some of the best horses in the world, rein horses and cow horses, and that's my favorite part of the show, to be honest. Anytime that there is country, and it's beautiful country, and there is horses, and some of the last couple of episodes have been a little more with the Four Sixes Ranch, and a little bit more the way actually. Or a little closer to how cowboy life was at the time, and maybe it still is in some part of the country. It's a very, very, very unique way of seeing life and go through your existence. But anyway, no, I do enjoy the show, and I'm enjoying also there's a show that just started a couple of weeks ago, 1883. Which is another 100 years before, or 150 years. And without being realistic or 100% realistic, but it's shows a little more all the adversities that people used to go in those days, and how the rules were set in terms of how you went through society in those days. So but anyway, horses and country and horses and my family, that's my passion.
Awesome. Do you rope? And excuse my ignorance for terminology. I don't know, but
I actually I wouldn't say I rope, but I try to rope.
Oh, okay.
So you tried to teach me one day. I remember. I really struggled. It's harder than it looks.
So normally the objective when you rope is to actually catch the steer, but the steer wins more than I do. so that means that I need to practice more. But yes, I do. I've been actually doing some roping, not as much as I want sometimes, but I truly enjoy that, and enjoy the atmosphere, the camaraderie with other with people that have the same like the same things, and that's a great time for me.
So from a tennis standpoint, I got a question that came in, which is a good one, I think. What was the best match that you were ever involved with, whether player or coach, that you sort of come to the top of your mind that, hey, this match was just unbelievable for so many different reasons? Or it could have been terrible as well. It could have been one of the worst aspects.
Yeah, well, I've had a couple of bad ones, to be honest. I think everybody does, but I definitely had my share of bad ones when I was playing.
I think people want to hear that, though.
Oh, yeah, it's a car wreck story. Everybody wants to see that. We don't want to hear the great ones. The great ones are gone. We want to hear the bad ones.
Well, I wouldn't say, I'm not going to say that when, but it was in Davis Cup. Davis Cup, I lost a tie, a 2-all, and that was probably about as bad as I've ever felt after I lost a match. And not because of the match, because I lost a lot of matches, but because of what represented at the time. It was a pretty big match, and I felt that I pretty much let everybody down, and that was very, very painful. To the contrary, I win a 2-all tie away, and that was probably the most satisfying victory of my life also. And in terms of watching great matches, one match that I thought it was a great match, even though the player that I was working with came short, was Jim played the finals of the US Open against Edberg. I believe it was in 1991 or something like that. And Edberg, the first set was decently close. At one point, it was a kind of a lucky point that went Stefan's way. And boy, I've never seen somebody playing tennis so well and so one shot in advance, and always be a step ahead and But then obviously, I mean, the time that I spent with all the other players, you know, with Roger or Jim or Chang or Pete or any of those guys, I mean, there are countless great matches that they played.
All right. I want to know best book you've ever read.
Well, I'm not a big reader.
Okay.
Believe it or not, you believe it?
I believe it. You're a roper. You're not a reader. You're a roper. I like it. I'd rather be a roper than a reader too. So
I'm not a big reader, but I like history a lot. That's something that if I read, I like history, any kind of history. So something that I've been reading, but I've been not a specific book, but it's the history of the Native Americans in the U.S. and somewhat, you know, I think that they were so wise. A lot of these people were so wise, and being wise, it doesn't get old. You know, now today we think we know everything. Well, in those days, a lot of those men and women, they were so wise. So anyway, that's some of the type of reading that I actually enjoy.
Love that. That's great. Love that answer.
Coaches that you've been around that you would say, hey, everyone should learn from these people? Like, I know you've been around a lot of coaches in a lot of different sports as well, but who would you say would be your top 2 or 3 coaches that you've learned the most from?
Well, the first teacher that I had in Barcelona, I think I mentioned that to you, Mark, before, was the best teacher I've ever seen with kids, and I got a lot of the way I teach and everything, I got it from him. And then, you know, I've been around a lot of guys like, you know, Larry Stefanki, you know, Paul Anacon. I wasn't lucky enough to meet, you know, Harry Holman. But I will mention guys like Lou Holt, which was a great player and was a Davis Cup coach for 5 years. You know, Rod Laver, I know Rod well. I talked to him. He loves tennis. I talked to him about tennis. So not necessarily a coach, but if you have your ears open, you will find out that you learn from everybody. I mean, I learned some great tricks going and doing some teachers symposiums. Going to Mexico, and all of a sudden, there's a drill that is a great drill from a pro that works at a club. So my point is, you know, obviously, if you watch the coaches that coach the top players, they're obviously great coaches. As I mentioned, some of them, you know, Tony Nadal or Tony Roach. I mean, but I think a good coach, like a good player, is always ready. Is always ready to learn, but not only from the best, because I think you can also learn from people, from the most unexpected people that, you know, that you can think. And at least that's been my experience. I don't know if that makes any sense, Mark. I know you.
Yeah, no, those were all really, really good names and good people. We try to talk a couple times on the lighter side of things as well, and I know that you're an expert in tequila. You taught me a lot about tequila. So, right. How did you get involved in that? What was sort of the background, and because when we say an expert, some people just like to drink alcohol. Yes. You actually understand it, and you've studied it, and you're a real expert in it.
Well, I wouldn't call myself. I mean, I'm not an alcoholic. Just made that clear. I like tequila, and I got introduced to tequila by my father-in-law, my late father-in-law. And then it wasn't too hard to get me for me to learn, because I find out that it's a really good thing to drink if you drink it properly, and it's good tequila. So I'm gonna tell you guys a funny story about drinking. So Jim plays the finals of Wimbledon. I believe it was in 1990 or 92. He lost to Pete, right? So he loses to Pete. I thought he played great.
So for folks that don't know, we're talking Jim Courier and Pete Sampras. Yes.
And Pete was a better grass court player. Jim got to the final, which beat Edberg in the semis. It was a great effort by him, and he had a great tournament. But anyway, make a long story short, so we go back to the house, and I go to bed. It's almost midnight. Somebody knocks on the door, and I say, hey, Pepe, this is Jimbo. So listen, you want to go get a drink? And I said, sure. So I'll get up, we go get a drink, we get some tequila. and we start shooting. And Jim, after every shot, he'll drink a glass of water. So finally, after 3 or 4 glasses of water, I said, Jimbo, what about the water? He said, well, if you drink enough, alcohol will dehydrate you. And then if you drink enough water when you're drinking, you'll get up the next morning and you'll feel a lot better. And guess what? That's the best advice I've ever gotten about drinking. So unless I had too many drinks and I forget the water, that's something that I normally do. And the thing with tequila is, if it's good tequila, it's not going to hurt you. If it's good tequila, it's not going to hurt you. And do you have time for another quick story about?
Yeah, we got lots of time.
So I was in Mexico. And I did some work for the Mexican Federation for a few years. And we used to go to the guys from the federation's homes, and we have lines there and so on. So we go to this guy's house, and grandma and grandpa are there, and every day before lunch they have a shot of tequila. So I started talking to them, and he said, it's good for you, Jose. It's good for your stomach and so on. So then grandma says, Jose, but I'm going to tell you something. I said, she says, remember that tequila is a very jealous lady. And I go, well, why? And she goes, because if you go with somebody else, she will kill you. and that is the truth. If you mix tequila with something else, then you better watch it, because you're not going to feel too good the next day. So that's another rule that I try to keep as much as possible.
Okay, so rookie tequila drinker, and having someone over who understands tequila, what's the bottle I bring to the table that we have nice tequila that, I guess, is there such a thing as table tequila? I mean, we have table wine, like everybody's different with their wine. It's wine and tequila is similar to wine in that way.
What's your favorite low-cost tequila that tastes good?
I mean, if you, like you can get I like the Don Julio's myself, the Don Julio, but there's a lot of good tequilas. So you can get a bottle of tequila like Don Julio in 1942 and pay $190 for the bottle. You can get a bottle of Don Julio Añejo and pay $59 to $60. You can get a bottle of Tradicional, which is a good tequila also, and pay $35 to $40. So in that range. What you want to do when you go to a restaurant and you order a margarita, just look the tequila that they put in the margarita, and that's the one you don't want to drink.
That's great.
but anyway, but it's I wouldn't say it's good for you, but I think it's if it's good tequila, is not that bad.
And just not on the rocks, or you put it on ice, just sip it. Right? You don't mix. You say you don't dance with anybody else.
No, well, right? I don't like to pollute my tequila, so I just drink it straight.
Just straight. Room temperature?
No, you put it in the freezer. You keep it in the freezer.
Cold, ice cold. All right.
If you put your little glass in the freezer also.
Yeah.
And then more than likely you'll have a good time. If it's a good tequila with a cold frozen glass, that's the way to do it.
All right, let's put some glasses in the freezer, Mark. We gotta get this thing ready right now.
Listen, I always learn something when I speak to you, Jose. There's always something to learn.
We all do.
No, this has been phenomenal. We really appreciate your time. We know how busy you are. You shared some wonderful examples and some really good learning opportunities as well. And I wish we could see each other more in person. We used to spend a lot of time together in person. Yes. Hopefully this year, we'll be able to. I just want to thank you again for your time.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure, Jason. It's been a pleasure meeting you. And anytime you guys need some entertainment, just give me a call.
We will. We'll have to do this again. This was awesome.
Oh, yes, Jose. If you come this way, we're going to have ice cold tequila for sure. Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to check the flights.
All right.
All right.
Thanks so much.